afternoon, everyone. I think we had one of the greatest starts, one of my privilege to actually shake hands with such an eminent leader, and I would say definitely learned a lot from his opening speech, and I'm sure all of you would have also taken a lot. As leaders, listening to leaders is always a privilege. So with that, let me just thank ET and the entire community here for giving us this opportunity. I represent the Dell data protection business in India, and been with Dell EMC and now Dell Technologies for more than 14 years. Been with Microsoft, IBM, Tata Steel, and HCL earlier. Definitely learning a lot every day, partnering with almost with quite a few known faces. Thank you for your trust and confidence. Well, I don't want to bore you today with something you already know. Let me just take a step and see how we can connect more. As we are given this chance to come together and interact, I'd like to present as to what we are doing as Dell Technologies, trying to help organizations such as yours connect with more of your digital transformation journeys, and exactly how do we really enable the very tenets of this conclave, which is uncertainty, ambiguity, and how do we really navigate all these challenges and make our future more predictable, less complex, simple to manage, and definitely leverage the technology piece, which I learned definitely in air. Technology matters. Technology matters more today in all our industries. So I'm sure on this slide what you're seeing is a lot of new technologies. You should not be challenged by it. But what is very important here is each of these circles represent that they are more connected than ever. Today, autonomous cars are definitely connected with what is the social impact that everybody is having. All our customers today are more connected. The impact that social media has on every organization, be it retail, all our consumers, they are driving our businesses. So do we really use technology? Maybe not, maybe in some ways, but our customers are. And how do we really connect the dots? More and more of these circles are talking today. And what is very interesting is each of these new engines of data sources is creating a very, very large repository. IDC itself is revising its figures. We are looking at a staggering 163 zettabytes of data being generated. And all of this data has to be managed, stored, analyzed, and actioned upon. After all, data is not a cost. I'm sure all of you agree it's not an expense. It's an asset. It's a fuel for growth. It's a fuel for technology to be enhanced, and that is what's going to get us the real incremental dollars. Like I heard about in an earlier presentation, the objective is to incremental dollars, $5 per passenger. Now, if you have that as an objective, what is going to lead you there is the data that you're getting, the data that you're managing, probably the sensor data itself, IoT, very much used word, but today more and more relevant. And how is all of this trying to take a new shape is what we are hearing today as a big buzzword, AI. Is AI now? I think AI was there even 30 years back. But what's so different today is that the way the data can be captured, can be put together, computed, and the way it is managed, the way it is generated, it is processed, and of course leveraged. Where is it residing? Who is the user? Can I reach the user faster? Can I actually analyze the data and bring back that intelligence which is actionable in that 30 millisecond or less time frame? Now, if that you are able to do today with all new technologies coming in, that's the power of AI. So it really is this time for us to really look at AI, ML in a big way and see how do we leverage all of this. Now, all of us are aware we are using hybrid cloud. We are using some form of private, some form of public, and more in a multi-cloud environment. All the data that we are generating, making sure that all of it is available to our employees, our consumers, our suppliers. Each of these operating models within the entire ecosystem, whether it is public cloud, your private cloud, all of that has to be managed by you. Whether you like it or not, when you put the data in a public cloud, ultimately you are managing it. So you have to take control of that, which means having a copy of that data securely in your premise. Or may be able to retrieve the data in a certain time frame and show it to a regulator, or be able to comply to all the various norms, not just in India, but even it's a global norm today. And today with cyber threats coming in, you have to be complying to those standards which are getting defined to protect the data, to be able to restore it, and show that, yes, in any case, I don't stand exposed to any ransom attack or any malicious activity. So with all this happening, operating models are taking a new shape. Data is more and more now at the edge. You would be surprised with how much data sensors are collecting. All of that intelligence today, in terms of compute and storage, is moving to the edge. Earlier, we actually used to do centralized IT. We used to bring the application centrally and manage the entire information. But today, it is all about distributed core. You've got to have a mix of both central as well as distributed application architecture, because that is how you're going to be able to serve your customers and be able to react online to them. Another building block, if you want to say, is how you are really looking at developing software yourself now. No longer are you going to rely on packaged softwares like ERPs and CRMs to do the next level of growth. You will be developing stuff at your own premise. It'll be customized. You will have developers who will know your business, who will be developing web services and rolling them out in the time frames that you really want to get ahead. If your businesses need that fast deployment, you cannot wait for the next release of the open package software. You've got to be ahead of your competitors, which means today more and more technologies will be adopted where you would be having the same programming APIs available for re-engineered processes to develop and deploy in that same architecture. To give you an example, you can have an infrastructure of compute, storage, network doing one application today. Within, say, half an hour, you want it to address some other application. You may be doing genome sequencing. You may have to move to radiology. These are the needs that are coming in the health sector. So the same architecture needs to address to those application needs. You will not have the liberty to go to cloud and get more resources. So how do you do more and more of such virtualized or containerized deployment? That is a new big piece. So software development, software deployment, and software-defined data centers. You got to have data centers which can be as close to the edge as possible, which also means that now your technology should be able to adapt. It's not that the hardware is going to be a commodity. You may require very, very specific hardware to run that software-defined architecture. But the key is you're taking the whole aspect of software-defined data center more and more closer to the place where the activity is happening, where the action has to happen, which is the distributed core. And finally, we are also seeing a lot of transformation at the workforce level. All your employees today are actually looking at the best of breed. They look at devices to come forth. They look at how secure, how seamlessly they can collaborate between the organization's needs. Various applications are today available on the handsets. We need to collaborate. As Dell Technologies, we have learned how all of our various group companies have come together and leveraged the technologies. And we're bringing all of that through the Dell proven way back to you so that you can also actually transform much faster than your committed pace is. And for that, we are actually taking 4 key transformation messages to our customers. How do we enable you to do this movement of actually predicting the future, of being more in control of your future, be it digitally or be it actually automate your own manufacturing processes, how to bring more and more actionable insight through the data that is flowing between all these operating models. And more importantly, also securing it, because as it moves between edge to core to distributed core and to cloud, you will need the same policy to be actually managing it. The data management piece is as critical. You won't like to have so many silos of application infrastructure across these operating models. Simplification is the crux. If you have a very complex infrastructure, it'll be very, very costly for you to maintain. And nobody's going to give you extra budgets for all this change. So with all of these new challenges, when you adopt these 4 transformations, which we have classified as IT transformation, workforce, security, and application. And that is what we enable all our customers to start building that much faster than others. A very simple example here is, if you were looking at your 3-tier architecture and where your data is coming and residing, you may have certain applications on SaaS platform, you may have something on public cloud, you would have a data center of yours, you would have branch offices, and of course you will have mobile users and laptop desktop users. All of these sources of information is generating a lot of data for you. And which is how we're classifying the next enterprise architecture, where you should be looking at how am I going to manage all this information from. So today, if you really see, with more and more connectivity coming with 5G, you will have more data which can move between these data centers, so-called. You have a public cloud which is also using an infrastructure today. Public cloud data centers are almost at your premise, because you are getting the public cloud functionalities on-prem. And that's where the benefits you will really get. You don't want to have latency levels. You want to have your benefits of on-prem benefits at the cost of elastic public cloud services. And therefore, as and when you will be looking at infrastructure, you will require to optimize all layers of infrastructure. It should not be just the one piece of it, maybe the servers, maybe the network, maybe the storage. And we all have seen how server virtualization benefits have come. Now with network virtualization, more and more of this will be realized. And of course, more and more modern data protection as well as security transformation embedded will help you realize these benefits. So our approach here is to give you these building blocks through a very seamless journey of IT transformation, which means we will help you deploy these in a very, very seamless manner. And how we're doing it? If you really see, between VMware and Dell, we have really come together as two big leaders. And as Dell Technologies, which is now a public company, we have come out with something called as Dell Cloud. Now, you would remember that we as Dell Technologies decided not to be a public cloud player, nor did even VMware. It was a very conscious decision. VMware has taken the entire vision of being the suite for running any application on any device and making it very seamless to you. Now, that vision is married to the Dell Technologies vision of Dell Cloud, which means we will be the entire, we'll move your virtualized environment through all clouds for most optimal deployment. Now, how does that really make a sense for you? Today, you've seen the benefits on-prem virtualization. You also want to see the same benefits on a public cloud environment. So can you move your data seamlessly to any cloud and bring it back and manage it as one layer? And not just that, with increasing containerization, we are taking the leadership position here to bring those platforms like Kubernetes orchestration seamlessly to you, so that you stay in full control. You don't have to move between clouds. You come to one player who's actually your doorstep to every big cloud. And therefore, the entire piece of virtualization which you have seen so far, and you actually maximize that benefit through multi-cloud approach. So as we move, our Dell Technology Cloud offering is going to be connecting not just with big 6 or 7 public cloud players, we are also tying up with 4,200 cloud providers, which means that through us, you can actually leverage all those CSPs who can be co-located to you and near to you. You will be seeing a lot of benefits out of co-location, network services, data center services, management, DR services. And by the way, how many of us are aware of Shelter Harbor here? Any source of, you would be aware of Shelter Harbor? It's actually offering where all these organizations who have had cybersecurity threats, they've come together. Since 2015, there's an independent body which was formed to actually protect data between all the large financial institutes, especially in the US. And I'm very proud to say that Dell Technologies is the first solution provider which is certified starting January 16th, 2020. We are the first solution provider in Shelter Harbor, which is now the gold standard for these institutions, which are now governed under those agencies, and they have to be complying to certain air gap way of keeping your data sets. Now, what do you mean by air gapping? It's another layer of keeping your most critical data sets off your network so that you can recover at any point of time without paying any ransom. Now, with all this happening and you becoming one one large player with having data centers across your multi-locations, leveraging all the operating models, you will see through this one cloud a complete doorway as to which workloads need to run where. And then at the right price per terabyte or price per compute that you'd really desire. So you really be the controller of that. And we enable that transformation. Coming to workforce, I think one of the key tenets we have observed as the largest player here, the workforce today decides who's in control of the data, where is the data getting generated, who's really taking control of it. Today, if you see your users are across the board. People are generating data, then everybody has to manage it. And if we have to give empowerment to our employees, we need them to be aware of certain security norms and policies. That is the true transformation. Not just few people in the organization need to know about security transformation. And that's typically what we have seen. It is at the workforce level that we are trying to bring this transformation, so that everybody at the employee level, at the connected ecosystem that you have is aware of, and that is pretty much the data protection bill that is going to talk about, which is the personal data, most critical data, and the business critical data. If we do not adopt that, then it can be into a wrong hands. And if you are having the right governance, then it is definitely a big enabler. And that is what we are trying to say, innovation for human progress. Innovation, which means sharing of more data. It should not be that we should be having fears of sharing data. At that rate, we will not innovate. We will not be having that transformations that we are looking for. We really need to innovate fearlessly. We need to be secure, and for that, right governance is very important. So we have lots of these technologies, and I really don't want to get too much in there, but moving ahead, what is so different from an application standpoint that you all should look at? You are aware of certain very important plays that we are doing in the industry. Earlier, virtualization, VMs used to be the way to optimize and run. Today, it's all about how fast I can deploy my containers and move ahead. How do you really bring these two philosophies and, of course, maximize on that? Now, that's a very powerful way, and that's why VMware and Pivotal together has come together to give it to you in the same framework, the fastest deployment, the continuous integration and deployment and development efforts, so that you can develop your applications and run in any manner. You can scale if on demand. And of course, you do take the benefits of virtualization also, which you have invested so far in your legacy frameworks. So innovate, definitely, and be ready for tomorrow. At the same time, make sure that all your applications which you have generated so far remain secure. You're able to get more out of your IT assets. Moving ahead, I think the best way to look at transformation has been, how do we really we change the environment for large organizations? If you look at large banks, they were looking at some of our technologies for having continuous DR, continuous data replication, moving seamlessly into another site, running branches overnight into the failed site, and then operating from there for 2-3 days and then failing back. Now, this was possible only through technologies which can optimize your network, have the same failback, failover time frames. You do not have to stop your services for long. You can actually virtualize your environment. You can virtualize various layers of it so that you can run a large operation seamlessly. And if this is possible today and you add the cybersecurity on it, today you are pretty much done on the key pieces of IT transformations. And therefore, all our 4 pieces, which is IT, workforce, security, and application transformation, all have to work together. It isn't that you just transform one piece, but definitely transforming all of 4 together is very, very important. And therefore, in all ways, if you see many of our architecture deployments which we have done, be it bare metal, be it Kubernetes, be it containers, all of it, if you see, is moving on these 6 operating centers, which we have defined for an enterprise architecture in this slide. But key tenet is that you will be able to relate that your architecture within your organization is fitting in some way or the other here. And therefore, all of that we are offering is more relevant to you so that you can take this ahead and then apply it to your business strategy and business goals. I'd like to share here what we did as we were challenged as well. We acquired a lot of companies, and the Dell Digital way is actually to do more and more with less. Our IT CIOs, when you speak to them, they are not given more budgets, but they are given tall targets to meet. And what we have done internally within IT is that we use our technologies to optimize data centers. We use a mix of our own tool sets, security elements, and therefore a lot of development work happens out of India as well. More and more technology is being used to manage our own data centers. We also manage security operation centers for many of our organizations, and of course our services arms, they do a lot of IT services. So one of the key messages here is all that we have done, and you would be most probably appreciative of the work which Dell together has done, both on-prem, public cloud, as well as bringing it together with our service providers, is we've got a wealth of our best practices. We've been leaders in almost all categories. We understand the environmental challenges, the applicational level details, and all our support services are connected, which means you can rely on our direct support for bringing this together. All our 4 transformation messages are underpinned with the same gold standard of services. And therefore, that becomes a unique differentiator, especially as you choose your partner for success. And one of the key findings we have run when we ran this survey with most of our CIOs is that these are the 4 challenges which you always come across. As I heard in the earlier presentation also, when you take it to the board is always asking you, have you tried blockchain, have you tried IoT? And their demand will be you have to do more with less cost. You have less time. Do you have all the skill sets yourself? Or would you have your people trained for everything? The answer is no. And do you have all the funds for it? The answer is no. Would you be ready to take all the risks? Sometimes people will be asked, like we heard from Air Marshal, he actually brought out a very nice way. Who's the smartest person? The person who takes the risk, but a conscious risk. So you have to have the risk-taking ability as well to go and innovate and push the barriers. And what we do is we enable all these organizations with what we have learned. What we have learned with most of serving all our customers. And that we offer through our service offerings. Consulting, building, right enterprise architecture, running the show, in fact, sometimes putting our skin on the game also and taking the ownership to deliver. So that's pretty much what I had. I really want to thank you for your time. The idea was to make sure that you all see what we are doing in this space. I'm sure all of you are aware of what we all do. Would be very happy to be interacting with some of you during the breaks. Thank you very much.